Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. So inshallah we continue with our third part of the program, second part of the demonstrations. In this part, inshallah, we're going to deal with the shrouding of the dead and the burial, inshallah ta'ala. We're going to go through quickly some theory before we get into the demonstration, inshallah. Quick review with the washing of the dead. As we mentioned, the details that we are mentioning, those are the recommended ways, right? But the issue with washing and shrouding and the cleaning of the dead, and so there's rooms for a lot of option, right? There's rooms for options, there's rooms for flexibility, especially if the individual can't afford certain things, right? There's rooms, there's no reason to panic. If you have to wash someone, as we mentioned, so long as you wash the entire body, right? Make sure water don't go into the nose and the mouth, you use a cotton, right? That's sufficient. There's no need to panic. Remember how you do ghusl? That's an easy summary to remember how to wash the dead. Exactly how you do ghusl. Istinja first, wudu, and then you wash the entire body. We mentioned with regards to covering the dead, the wajib, what must be covered is between the navel and the knee. That's for both the men and the woman, right? Now, the sitr for the woman is more emphasized, so covering the entire body during the wash, if it's possible, is going to be better. But what is wajib to cover is the navel and to the knee for the woman. What must be covered is between the navel and the knee. That's just some of you were asking with regards to that, right? This is washing, and as we mentioned, the washing, only those who are responsible for washing should be there, right? It's not a show or a demonstration, right? Only those who are dealing with the washing, doing the washing, they should be there. We didn't mention in detail the person who is doing the wash. There are conditions and recommendations with regards to the person who is doing the wash. The most important condition is being trustworthy, right? After being a Muslim, of course, but the most important condition is to be trustworthy. If you see something, right, you remain silent. If you see something that is good, that is a real sign of goodness, it's recommended to speak about it. If you see something that is not good, or something that no one would like to mention, you remain silent, because then you're going to fall into backbiting. If it's an evil individual, some of the scholars, they mention you can mention some of the bad things you see, if it has to do with that evil. Like, for example, there's a bad scent coming from the body that you can't get rid of, right? It's an evil individual. Everyone knows that he is evil, right? You're not talking about a person who may be sinful, he may be having problems. No, you conceal those individuals. But someone who is known to be evil, you mention these things happened to him when he died, to warn others, not of him, he's dead, to warn others of being like him. And as we mentioned, it's recommended to mention the good things that you see with regards to an individual. That is recommended. Now, there are certain things that may seem good that is not really a sign of anything. For example, someone, they're smiling, right? That is not a sign of anything. Anyone can be smiling when they are being washed and shrouded, whether Muslim or non-Muslim. So don't be fooling others also, right? So make sure that if you have to wash the dead, you remember these guidelines. Now, with regards to shrouding the dead. Now, the shrouding of the dead, meaning covering the dead and clothing the dead, again, there is a sufficient way and there is a recommended way. The sufficient way, as we mentioned, is once the entire body is covered completely. Now, what is recommended and best and better is everything that has to do with the dead of expense come from his money. It's not recommended to donate anything, right? Everything has to do with the dead come from his money. The burial, the shrouding, the washing, everything comes from his money. Many of the scholars even recommend you you get your shroud even before, right? You purchase a shroud that you would like and you would to be covered in, and you keep it with you. That is something that many of the scholars recommend, but it comes from your wealth, right? Wherever you can afford, it comes from your wealth. And we know the famous hadith or the famous story of Mus'ab, right? They didn't have enough cloth to cover his entire body. Why? None of the believers couldn't afford a cloth. No, that was what he could have afford. Nobody donated a cloth for him to cover his entire body, because that is not something that is recommended. It comes from your wealth, unless what the basic obligation cannot be met. The person don't have any money, the sister don't have any money, right? There is no awliya of the sister to look after her expense, right? She don't have a husband, she don't have any male relative, right? And you have the basic obligation needs to be completed of covering her and shrouding her and bathing her. So like that, then you can come into donating something or giving it as charity to the family if they cannot afford. But the default is everything of expense come from the wealth of the dead. So we will get into the demonstration, inshallah. As we remember, we just finished washing the dead. So remember, the dead don't have any clothes on, right? It's just the towel that's covering the individual. For the men, it's recommended for them to have 3 pieces of cloth, right? That is sufficient to cover them. And you put the best on top. The widest and the best one it goes on top, so that the body get covered with that one first. That is the one that is touching the body, the best one. If there are different materials or different value, you put the best and the widest one on top. Then you perfume each layer of the cloth. So remember, the best one is going on top, so that is the one you're gonna put last, right? If I miss anything, make sure you remind me. As we mentioned, this is our retired Janaza guy, so he has experience. That's why he mentioned it to me last night, so I'm pulling him last minute too. Right? So you put the first cloth, you perfume it, right? And you put the second cloth, perfume it, the third cloth, perfume it, right? And recommended, you can use camphor, and you can use whatever what you call these things, like oud or whatever bakhur or so that you have, you can use it. And then you perfume all of the places of wudu. So the faces, the hands, the elbows, all the places of wudu is recommended for you to perfume those areas. And then you perfume areas where dirt and so can accumulate, or normally accumulate, dirt and scent. There's going to be, like, for example, the armpit, like under the knees, right? Remember, between the elbows is normally a spot like that, but there's going to be perfume with what? When you perfume the places of wudu. And then you put some perfume on pieces of cotton or pieces of soft cloth, and you plug all of the entrances of the body, like the nostrils, right? The ears. With regards to the private part, is also recommended to put a perfume cotton and then strap it, right? And then strap it like if you're strapping on an underwear. Why? Let's say any scent comes out, or let's say anything is to come out, that perfume, the cloth is going to prevent it from leaking on the shroud, and the perfume is going to prevent the scent from dispersing from the body. So that is recommended. So you perfume the body, and if you want to perfume the entire body, right? Many of the scholars have mentioned that is also recommended. Right? If you want to perfume the entire body, then that is something that is also recommended. Now, if there is excess cloth, like there's a lot here, right? Because this one is to cover this guy here. So you can see the difference. Right? And he's practicing the sunnah. He already get his shroud. I don't know. He's planning something. Are you getting? Right? If there is excess, you put it towards the head side. Right? The excess, You put it towards the head side and leave enough so that it can be, the foot side can be wrapped. Right? You don't pull the cloth all the way right up to the foot like this. Or then when you cover him, you wouldn't have anything to wrap and tie. And then you start by folding the cloth from the right side over to the left. Right? You fold the right side first. Now we'll come into that. Now, whether you start from the right or you start from the left, it's open. Now, why? No. Which side is this? Yeah, this is the right side. Oh, I thought, yeah, you fold from the right side. Now, what I was going to say, if you start from the left, it's also permissible, right? And some of the scholars, they prefer the right, some prefer the left. And as we mentioned, that all of these things, they are rooms, right? There is no fight about it. There are rooms for it. Now, why is it better to start with this side? Remember, you have to, let's fold over the left side. So you fold the right and you fold the left. Now, that's for additional demonstration. Remember, you have to put him on his right side in the grave. So if you fold that side last, what is going to happen? It can fall over when it's in the grave. So it's best you fold the right side, then the left. So when you turn him on the right, it don't fall over when he is in the grave. So you do that and then you continue shrouding all the other layers just like that. The right over, then the left over. Until you finish with the third. Yeah, you can pass all that. Yeah, you can come down there more. Now when you finish, you knot it 3 places, right? When you knot from the head side, you cover the head, and then you put one in the middle, and you put one at the end. And as we mentioned, all of these, the way in which you knot and all of that, right? There is room. There's room for variation, right? You don't have to be a specific certain way. The idea is it has to be secure, so he don't get exposed. Now, with the head side for the men, the knots in general, you knot it in a way that you can loose it in the grave. Because it's recommended when you put the dead in the grave, you loose all of these knots. You don't unravel or expose his body. You don't open his face or anything in the grave, right? You put it in a way that's going to be that he can loose it. Maybe you can re-demonstrate a tie, right? Just how you tie your shoelace so that you can pull it out easy, but make sure that it's tied in a sturdy way, so you don't get loose as you are moving and transporting the body. Very good. That is with regards to covering the dead. All of this is cover up, right? But we gotta make sure our brother don't be a real demonstration. Come this side. Come this side. Come this side. Come this side. Now, with regards to shrouding the sister, right? We mentioned in the As for the woman, she should be shrouded in 5 garments. That is the sunnah that is narrated from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he shrouded his daughter. You have 2 cloths like these, right? There is 2, and then in addition to the 2, you have the headpiece, which is the khimar, the hijab. So you have one piece that is going to use for the hijab. She's going to be wrapped. You can switch it to the. No, come on. Harun distracting you. Right? You have the khimar. Then she's going to have a qamis, a short, and a izar, which is, we all know the izar, right? It's similar that we use for the umrah, like a waist cloth. Now, we forget one main thing. After the first shroud, this is removed, right? The covering, the towel. After the first shroud, this is removed. So don't think that this was left. Right? After the first shroud, this is removed. Now for the sister, when you're going to put her on 2 pieces of cloth. And then you're going to put on start with the izar, right? The izar is like a towel, like if you imagine a towel wrap around your waist, that's the izar. So you're going to put on the first, you're going to put on the izar, which is going to cover from her navel all the way to her knees. Right? And then you're going to take out the towel that was used after the wash that was covering her private parts. Then you put on the qamis on her, right? The short, like an inside short. It's going to be like an actual inside short with a short sleeve or long sleeve, whatever type you get, right? An actual inside short. Not that you take in a cloth and wrapping it to look like a short. It's a short, right? And the izar. And then for the hijab, the khimar, you're going to wrap her head just like you wrap it when you are alive, right? You wrap it to like a khimar. Wrap it, make sure it covers the entire chest and the neck and so on. Then after that, you're going to cover the body with the 2 cloths just as we did with the men. Right? Clear with the woman? Right? The same thing, you're only doing 3 additional. You're putting on an izar before, short, and the hijab. You're wrapping it around her head. And that is obvious why she have more because, right? You cover the woman more just as you cover them more in this dunya. That is with regards to shrouding the dead in general, and then he is carried for the salah and the burial. You left out anything? Major? Any addition? Any question? 1 minute question for this part. There is a sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He mentioned that specifically to cover. As for the exact number, with regards to 3, right? There is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He loves witr, right? Having the odd number part, that is a general recommendation for things to be odd. As for why 3 and not 5, Allah knows best. Yeah, and the woman, she get perfume the same way with regards to her joints, her body, the shrouds, right? She's perfumed the same way, right? Remember, she's not in her iddah, where she is not perfumed so that nobody can propose to her. There's no done. Allah is done. So this is for the burial, right? A lot of people, they judge it based on the iddah. Oh, you can't use perfume in your iddah, in your waiting period. Then you can use perfume after you die, right? But there is 2 different scenarios.
How do you remove the? Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Now, how do you remove the shroud? The towel if she's shrouded after the first shroud.
No, they remove the towel from her after you put on the izar, okay. the waist garment. Yeah.
Earlier you were saying that you straighten out the joints, right? And a lot of people know when you die, rigor mortis sets into the joints. It's the reason why the brother's talking about straighten out the joints.
Question or input? Question, no input. Input, we gotta research. Make sure it's the right input. The color, right? We all know the hadith. Where's the hadith for the color? Right? Wear from your clothing white color you're asking about, right? Because it is the best for you when you're alive and when you are dead. So there is, and the ummah in throughout the entire world, there is something that is agreed upon, the prioritizing white based on the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
So the removing of the towel once it's wet, you put the izar over, and then you snatch.
Yeah, but remember the izar going to be hold on to the waist, right? So nothing going to be moving.
It's going to be multiple people, so you should.
And they're going to be multiple individuals.
First round is on. Yeah. When you get to that part of the izar, you already have your cuts and everything already made. If you have to do cuts, or if he came with it already, you put it over his waist. The wet towel is still there. So now you just take the wet towel from the side. If you're by yourself, hopefully there'll be more people with you, and then you just snatch it from down. Yeah. Then you just take it, go to the side or wherever you're going to put it, and then you just move forward.
All right. Two more questions. We continue. Yeah. After the wash, you dry. When the wash is complete, you dry. That is better for preserving the body from any any.
When you dry, don't rub.
Yeah, when you dry, yeah, you pad. You don't rub those. You have to make sure that you're not doing anything that can cause the skin from moving, as you know that the body can start decaying without you even realizing. Yeah. Musa, you have a question? If you insist, you can. As you mentioned, it's recommendation, right? But it's better not to go past 7. And if a person insists to be, let's say a person had a thawb that he loved and he wants to be buried in, and he insists to be buried in that thawb, he can, right? All of this is recommendation, right? The famous hadith of when Abdullah ibn Ubay, he passed away, the hypocrite, right? His son came and asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to give him his thawb to bury his father in it, so that the barakah of the thawb maybe can reduce some of his punishment or so. So that showed the permissibility of using thawb. I'm missing it? Yeah, the person who washed the body is recommended that they make ghusl themselves after they finish. The difference of opinion, wajib but it's best that they make ghusl. Recommended to the person who washed the body, was recommended for them, right? It's recommended for them to make ghusl after they finish, and also make wudu, or at least make wudu after they finish. But it doesn't break their wudu. Just that is recommendation. Inshallah, we move on to the next part, and then at the end we're gonna see the questions. I know I have some questions from the sisters. I'm gonna come to that. Inshallah. The next part is praying over the dead, right? And this everyone should know about praying over the dead. That's easy. Everyone performed the janaza before, right? Who don't know to perform the janaza? So we can go through it from amongst the kids in the madrasa, not the adults. The question for the kids. No, we're gonna go through it. Inshallah. No, we're gonna go through it eventually, but don't worry. Now, with regards to praying over the dead. So if it's a male, the imam stands by the head, right? By the head or the shoulder, right? Around that same area. If it's a female, the imam, he stands by the middle of the body. Right? If it's a female, he stands here. That's the recommendation. The obligation is what? Where is the obligation? Is the dead got to be in front. That's the obligation. Unless The situation does not allow for the dead to be in front for everybody. So the dead has to be in front for the imam and everybody else. But there may be a situation where it's not possible for the dead to be in front of everyone. Like for example, in the Haram al-Makki, right, where everyone you have from the Kaaba all the way out to the masjid is jam, right? There's no way you can rearrange that crowd, right? A few million people to stand behind the dead. So in those situations, right, wherever the imam is sufficient. At the end, let me go through the process, inshallah. Then, now with regards to which side the head should be, right or left, right? Sheikh Abdul Aziz bin Baz and Sheikh Uthaymeen, they said that there is no sunnah with regards to that specifically. So if you're standing by his head, but remember his head can be on your right or on your left. So if you spin the body like this, right, you're standing by his head, you're going to be over this side of the table. The body, like how it is right now, you stand by the head, you're going to be on this side of the body, right? So whether the head is on the right or the left, there is not an issue. And some of the scholars, they mentioned that sometimes put it on the right, put it on the left, so that people don't think that it has to be a specific way, and whatever, there is no harm, inshallah ta'ala. And then the salah of the janaza is 4 takbirat. Right? You say Allahu Akbar 4 times. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, and then after the 4th you give the salam. Now after the 1st takbir, the best thing to recite is Surah Al-Fatiha. Right? The most important aspect of the Salatul Janaza is the dua. That is the most important aspect. Now with regards to Surah Al-Fatiha, the majority of scholars, they don't obligate it in the Janaza. Right? And there is evidence indicating that the Prophet ﷺ did not necessarily read Surah Al-Fatiha in all of the Janaza. Sometimes he read it and sometimes he doesn't read it. Now we know sometimes we go to pray Janaza, they mention the Thana. Some people mention the Thana. Right? Subhanakallahumma with an addition. Right? That is according to the Maliki and the Hanafi madhab. Now I'm going through detail with this so that we don't think that people doing a bid'ah and we label them as people of bid'ah unjustly. Right? That is according to the Hanafi and the Maliki madhab, and we know Imam Malik, right? His madhab is based in Medina, and the actions of the people of Medina has a great influence on his madhab. So it is from the way of the Salaf, right? And the pillar of the salah is the dua. And the reason why those madhahib, they incline towards reading the thana is because they say it is more suitable with the nature of the janaza, and that's what they learned from the companions. Because it's from the companions, they are those who did not read Surah Al-Fatiha. Now why we said it is better? Because the hadith that mentioned it straight from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, the hadith of Ibn Umar, when he read the Salatul Janaza aloud, he mentioned that he did so that you know it is from the Sunnah. Now that wording of the hadith, so that you know it is from the Sunnah, right? Many of the scholars have said it's indicating that it's not a must that you have to read it. He didn't say he read it so that you know it is the Sunnah, or you know that you have to read it, or like he said in a way at the end. He said it in a way, right, to indicate that it is from the Sunnah and you should not leave out that Sunnah. But as you mentioned, the best thing is to read Surah Al-Fatiha. And if you read Surah Al-Fatiha, that is also from the best of the supplication. And then after that, the second takbir, that is the first takbir, Allahu Akbar, Surah Al-Fatiha. The second takbir, you say Allahu Akbar, and you send salat and salam on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? In any way you do it is sufficient. You say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? It's sufficient, but the best way to do it is with the dua Ibrahimiyya. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad to the end of the dua. But once you send salat on the Prophet, you have fulfilled the basic obligation. Then the third, after the third you make dua for the dead. If you don't know the dua, Allahumma kfir li hayyina wa mayyitina to the end of the dua, then you should at least say Allahumma kfir lahu, right? Warhamhu, O Allah, forgive him and have mercy upon him. Allahumma kfir laha warhamha, O Allah, forgive her and have mercy upon her, and it's recommended that you make dua for the dead and yourself. Right? For the dead and yourself, and if it's more than one, right? You say, Allahumma kfir lahum warhamhum, and also you make dua for yourself, as it came in the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then after the fourth takbir, you give the salam. And that is the best way to make the janaza, with 4 takbir. Right? It's been narrated up to 7 takbirat, but the best is to keep it to 4. Like that, your janaza is correct by the consensus of scholars. As some of the scholars, they mention, some of them condition increasing the takbir, some of them mention it that it is abrogated. But if you stick to 4, that is the best sunnah agreed upon by all of the scholars. And then you give the salam, as we mentioned, after the last takbir, and then you rush with the dead. Hasten, meaning walk fast with the dead for the burial. Though it buys them at the back there, you guys stop talking, distracting the brothers. Abu Masjid gonna cut out all of this for the YouTube, inshallah. According to the Malikis and the Hanafis, you give 2 salam. According to the Hanbalis and the Shafi'is, you give 1 salam. Right? So wherever is done by the Imam, you do it. Now, if you go back 1 generation before that, like Abdullah ibn Mubarak, he said that is not known that from any of the Salaf, the Salaf with regards to him is who? Just companions. Abdullah ibn Mubarak is Tabi'i. Right? The 4 Imams, they are Atba Tabi'in. Abdullah ibn Mubarak Tabi'i. So his Salaf is who? Companions. Right? He mentioned that it's not known that any one of them said 2 salam. So that's why you find that's a preferred view by many of our scholars today. To stick to one salam. But if someone did 2 salam, they have salaf. Right? They have salaf from amongst the earlier generation. Now, with regards to the burial. Well, what we're going to go through with regards to the burial going to be theory, right? There's going to be theory. You sleeping? We can release you now, inshallah. Jazakallahu khairan. So we're going to go through the burial, and I think that's going to be the end. And we're going to run through the questions from the sisters first, since we didn't give them an opportunity before. Whatever we can answer, inshallah, we're going to try to answer it. And other than that, you can reach out to us later on, and we can do some research, inshallah. So, with regards to the burial, it's highly recommended, and if the opportunity is there, you should not go to another option for the Muslims to be buried with the Muslims, right? Once the Muslim has a burial ground, you should not opt for anything. You should not opt for anything else. And just as a clarification, right? If a person is buried amongst the non-Muslim, especially those who may be living in countries where there is no Muslim burial ground, and no ability to bury among the Muslims, then they bury whatever means they have. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear. And a righteous person who lives his life is not going to be punished for something that his heirs did afterwards, especially if he wanted to be amongst the Muslims and be buried with the Muslims. And the dead should be placed into the grave on his or her right side facing the Qibla. As we mentioned, like you're sleeping, right? How you sleep on your right side, that's how you face the Qibla, on your right side. And that's the demonstration of the majority of scholars. Some of the scholars mention, yes, you put your foot towards the Qibla and raise your head. And you lift the head of the dead, put something to elevate your head. So it's not that's a bid'ah, right? It's the view of some of the scholars. If I'm not mistaken, is the view of Imam Malik, may Allah have mercy upon him. But the majority of scholars, is that you face the Qibla like how you sleep on your right side. And then you place the dead into the grave, and as you're placing him into the grave, this should have come before, you say Bismillah ala sunnati Rasulillah, or Bismillah ala millati Rasulillah, the one who is lowering him into the grave. You lower him like saying Bismillah ala sunnati Rasulillah, or Bismillah ala millati Rasulillah, in the name of Allah, upon the sunnah or upon the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And also the one who is going to throw the first set of dart is also recommended for him to say this when they're already the lahd is covered, right? The dead is secure. You say Bismillah ala sunnati Rasulillah as you throw the dart. Now when the dead is laid in the grave, as we mentioned, you take out the knots from the coffin, right? The knots that we tie to secure the cloth, you loosen those knots. But you do not uncover the body. Now one of the wisdom of loosening the knot, as we know, is that the body, it swells. Right? That is normal and natural. Nothing to do with being righteous or not righteous. The body, it swells. So if you leave those knots, you can make the body get damaged further if there is no space for that swelling. And then it's recommended everyone who is there at the janazah to throw 3 handful of dart. And as we say, those who are when throw the first set of dart, they say Bismillah ala millati Rasulillah. And after the burial is completed, the grave is elevated to a handspan. That's the max, right? It should not be leveled with the ground, and it should not be elevated too high. The grave, it should be elevated. So you leave some amount of dirt to elevate it, at least a handspan approximately. Now the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where Ali, he said the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent him on a mission to not leave any grave illa sawaita, except that you level it. Level it with what? No, because remember, we just said you can't level it with the ground. Level it with the other graves. So if there is a grave that is elevated higher than the other graves, right, is an obligation that those in charge, they level it to the other graves. But you have to level it you put it to a handspan. You don't put it to the ground and that nobody knows it's a grave and they stepped on it or sit on it and do things that are makruh or prohibited with regards to the grave. And if the soil is loose, you can sprinkle some water to keep it together, and you can place a marker on the grave, a stone or something that the family knows that this is the grave of their loved one. And after the burial, is recommended for those who are there to make dua for the dead facing the Qibla. That's the recommendation. Not facing the dead. Right? If it happens that the grave is between you and the Qibla, right, then that is so. But if the grave is in the opposite direction, is not sunnah recommended to face the grave as many people think. Right? They face the grave and intend to face the grave to make dua. Not that they are intending to make dua to the dead, but they think that facing the dead is what is recommended. But the recommendation is the Qibla, facing the Qibla when you are making dua. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he prohibits us from doing anything extraordinary with the grave, whether it's building over the grave, whether it's cementing or plastering the grave, and they had means by which they would do that in their time, or writing on the grave. Right? The default for writing on the grave is that it is prohibited, right? Putting a big plaque with the name and the date of birth and all of those things are forbidden by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we mentioned those hadith there from Jabir radiyallahu anhu in Sahih Muslim and Abi Dawood, where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he forbid plastering the grave, that's like cementing the grave, or building on it, or sitting on it, or writing on the grave. That is the default for these things, it is prohibited. Now, in some case, if the earth is not suitable is not stable, in those cases, you are allowed to do what's necessary. Whether it's putting some wood extra, or casting something, or putting a plastic, whatever is necessary to secure the grave is permissible in those situations. So with this, we have completed, inshallah ta'ala, our program. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for whatever shortcomings or mistakes may have been said, slips or falls from myself and the shaitan. And we ask Him to benefit us from that which He has taught us and benefit us all from this program, make it a means of reminder for us, inshallah ta'ala. Before we close, I'm just going to see if the sisters them send any easy question. We're going to answer it. And the hard question, they're going to have to check back another time, inshallah.